Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jeremy here for something new here. We are going to be doing a DGBA podcast. I'm here joined with the commissioner of the DGBA, Jack.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm here also with Haz.
Hi, I would ask you how I'm doing, how you're doing, but I wouldn't know the response.
And I'm here with Ches as well.
No, no. Goodbye.
Bro, we called this in me. We called this. We
We
said
did call this.
Chaz
Mhm.
would say something stupid.
It wouldn't be a
Yeah,
DGBA
yeah.
intro without some stupidity.
Yeah, of course,
Of
of
course,
course.
we nearly
So
got it at last.
we nearly got it. We nearly got it. Anyways, I think this is quite a cool thing that we're going to do. We're going to be returning the DGBA podcast, and um I think it's going to be pretty interesting because we're going to be talking about the new season and about last season. How do you guys feel about it?
Um,
I am absolutely buzzing. Oh my goodness me! You can
I can
tell the
tell.
excitement from my
I can
voice.
tell. I can tell.
Hooray! Hurrah! DGBA,
Mm,
let's go! Season 11. Woo!
Whoa. Nah, for real though, I think that the podcast could be a pretty cool thing, especially if we can return with even more topics. Of course, it's really fun to talk about the season, especially with all these council members and free admins, of which as well, because then we can kind of like tell people uh, how it is to, run a league, especially when that's open server.
mhm.
I think that's I think open server is way harder than private because it's really hard to, you know,
Yeah.
keep that image up.
Mm. Yeah, hopefully
And
we
that's
can talk more about like how we like go about like starting up a new season, like all our thought processes and stuff. Everything we have to
yeah,
go
yeah.
through. All that
I
inside
mean,
information.
that where that starts, I think, is also for us season 10. Like
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
we just started the season 11, but obviously we took a lot of things from season 10 and how we could have improved on those things and what we did right. And Jack, what do you think about what was the biggest change that we made from season 10 to season 11 that is doing us really well so far?
I think the biggest change overall, I think, was gave us the most amount of work to do in between the season was definitely the tiering. Going from free draft to points with also a new gen does take quite a bit of work. Having to re-tier everything because we don't want to just copy another league's tiering or anything like that. We want to make it our own and have our own insights to it. So that took quite a bit of time as well. I think that took maybe even close to a month overall. And then on top of waiting for DLC changes as well, that's gonna take a bit of time as well. Um, but yeah, I think we want to talk a bit about season 10 now and like towards the end, because that's essentially when we start to get to work on stuff. Right when playoffs are starting, we want to debate, give ourselves a roadmap for how we want to play out the next few months and what we actually want to do in the server in general. Um, so yeah.
Okay, well, I have a question because obviously while deciding how to take a season on and how you wanna do stuff with it, we have a council and like I wasn't part of this because I'm not an admin, but how did the admin team go about deciding the council? Because I see a lot of returning phases from last season, but also a few new ones like for example KHD who runs his own league. So
Yeah.
how did you guys
Yeah,
like?
sure. So, I mean, the council is a bit different. The applications for it are different than like the regular league, for example, because you don't get as many, and you're mainly getting people that are also wanting to return with a few new faces in between. Generally, we look at if they're returning. We sort of analyze how we felt they did the previous season in the council and how much they contributed, and usually if they contributed enough, um, we'll accept them again. But if we feel as if maybe there's a better applicant that we want to try, like and someone new that we want to try on that in the council, or someone we just didn't think maybe didn't pull their weight enough, we would be liking to test new waters, get new people in the mix for the league as well, and just do more than just playing in it.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a question for you because
Right.
you've been here since the very start of the
Yep.
DGBA,
That's
and
correct.
and you've obviously been very hands-on with your approach when you were a commissioner,
Mm.
and still like even now you are still very helpful like everywhere, and not
Oh,
really
thank
like
you.
Jack, who was more behind the scenes, and um, he, Jack obviously does a lot of stuff, but
Sure.
you see more from Haz than from Jack, which is kind
Mm.
of weird. But do you think that the council now is better than it was before, or how do you think that it helped for this
So
season?
I think with the council, I think like this season we rather than having I think this has always been the thing. Rather than having like a whole bunch of people having lots of different opinions, we have it to like we have like a concise group of people where everyone is active and everyone's able to contribute. So there's no sort of like dead weights
Yeah.
on the council pretty much. I think that's kind of the philosophy that we go about it. Like I actually think compared to last season, I think we have like even less
Yeah.
people on the
I think we
council
have
this
two
season than we
less.
did last
I
season.
think we have two less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think the main thing is that rather than having a whole load of people and then having all their like viewpoints, we want to have a small group of people and just have them be like really active and just getting all these like responses through so we can go about doing like stuff like voting a lot quicker and that we can keep all these people like motivated exactly, which I think is like very important as well, because I think like every council member has to have like some sort of affinity towards the league. Like I've noticed throughout my time, you have like some people who like over time become less and less interested in the league, and you have to like sort of identify that and then say, okay, this is where we maybe take this person out and blood someone new in, for example. So like KHD, for example, I mean I can understand like some doubts about him because it's KHD, but he does have like
I
some
mean,
really good experience running his own league in
yeah,
MLP, and I think those sort of things can be useful because there aren't too many like other like league owners in the council. So I think having that viewpoint is very nice, even if KG talks about MLP uh, a quarter of the time.
I think also when I look at the council now, I think that it is obviously it's a lot of people that like to talk to each other,
Mm,
but that also helps with activity because people like to work on stuff with each other.
yeah.
So I think that really helps with how you guys did it. I don't know if you got even more responses than just that, but I think the
Yeah,
council right
yeah.
now
I
is pretty
also
good.
think with like I feel like we have like a bunch of different personalities, and they're
Yeah,
all able to like give their own different viewpoints.
even though they
Like,
mesh really well.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
I think it's really good to have like different viewpoints because you want people to like challenge opinions. Exactly. I think we're as a council we're really good at doing that.
yeah, I fully agree with that. And obviously we didn't really start. I mean, for us, it's pretty obvious, but we didn't really start with season 11, right
Mm.
after season 10 because we had a pretty big off season with a tournament and a lot of other stuff. But what do you guys think of season 10? Like, where did it help other than the tier changes? Because obviously we had a free draft, and a lot of tier changes really helped us to, or a lot of the free draft pretty much helped us a lot with tier changes. But where else do you think it helps? Because I think personally, if I would say anything, I would say that Poison Point got a really big, it really was helped a lot just by having season 10 be there.
Mm. Should we let
Well,
Chuz take this?
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Chess is pretty
So I think because last season, I'm not like trying to flame or anything, but there was a lot of new people we added that ended up kind of not really working out. They either dropped or they didn't say anything in the chat and just kind of did their games. And like, so like in this was in Speed Boost and Poison Point. Didn't really happen in Swarm, but it
There
ended
weren't a
up
lot
we
of
ended
good
up
people.
being like quite a bit more picky with who we added, and we're just like, oh yeah, this guy, they have like a name for themselves in the community. They're instantly in. We definitely like considered stuff a lot more this season, and I feel like at least so far that has been paying off quite well. Instead of just kind of what we did last season, ended up not working out with a lot of the people we added, and also definitely made some of the replacements quite a hassle to deal with. I think that was the biggest improvement we had this season, to be honest.
Yeah, I think personally that we very much decided a lot of what we wanted to do this season just because of what we saw what went wrong with
Yeah,
the
for sure.
previous season. Like I was very vocal about the application, for example, and the process of it, and at the same time with how replacements were done. And I think that we really improved on that. I don't know how you guys think about that. I don't know.
Yeah, so at the end of the season, I think we went through like each division and we kind of assessed like how we felt about each division. I think that was the issue of Poison Point. I felt last season that I felt like Speed Boost and Swarm had a lot of like soul to them, if you know what I mean. Like I feel like a majority of people were invested in the league, and I kind of felt less so when like Poison Points. I'm not saying that like no one cared about the league in Poison Point. There definitely were a good couple of people, but there are also like a good amount of people who were just kind of like there as more filler.
Yeah,
So
I can very much see that. Yeah.
what we did was we looked through each division and we asked what did we want each of our members to like, what traits we wanted them to have exactly, and what things were we looking for from like each division. And then also the application, we scrutinized that a lot more this season. We tried to make it much more efficient and to basically like try to like squeeze out like all the information that we want the person to say pretty much. Like you'd be surprised about like how much more you can get out just by being like specific with like one or two like extra things. And I think we did that really well this season.
Yeah, I do think the like slight edits we made to the application here and there, I think those definitely helped out quite a bit. Because overall you could tell a lot of the applications were actually like answering the questions more thought out and stuff, or just
Yeah.
at least answering them fully, if that makes sense.
I just think we had a bit better of a system put in place to be a bit more, just I guess precise in the way we go about things. I think I talked about this at the end of season 10 with everyone, and that was want things to be a bit more organized, like we've talked about. Having DGBA twice, a year at certain points of the year, and then having that in between space to do other things and focus on more general things to the server. And I just think having everything more organized and have things already thought out before we get to it just makes things a lot easier for us. Which is why I think this application process, even with the amount of applicants that we got, we were just it wasn't it did when it came down to the wire and towards the end it did get tough, but before that it was pretty easy for us because we had a good system already put in place, which I think is a good thing to have going forward as well.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Like all three of what you guys said is pretty true. Well, Jack also already kind of mentioned it. We got a lot of applicants this season, and a few people even talked about the possibility of quick feed, a fourth division right now, a meme division for us. What do you guys think of the actual possibility of quick feed as a division, a fourth division for the
Oh
DGBA?
boy, who wants to take this one?
Because I personally,
I could start
with the applicants, we can definitely do it in terms of how many we get, but I don't know how you guys think about the rest of it.
Okay,
There's a lot more going on.
this is a very complicated topic. First of all, I'll say that I felt the landscape of leagues has changed a lot since we started like Poison Points. In that when we started Poison Points, leagues only really had like one to like maybe two divisions, but generally divisions weren't that common. But now you see a lot of leagues have like 5, 6, even 7 divisions, which I think is definitely a lot. With DGBA, I feel like we want to have a good line between quality and quantity, and I definitely feel if you add another division, the overall quality of the league is gonna like reduce just because of that's just how it works.
Is that what I should have maybe been a little bit more specific, but do you think is what hindered quick feed for this season specifically?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. I'm just
Okay.
What was I?
Okay, then go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think But looking at it like generally, what the thing was, we said earlier that we had like issues with like poison points. We kind of we had the idea of like promoting a couple of people from Swarm, so there are gonna be a lot of changes to that division as well. And when you have all these changes to these divisions, it's kind of hard to then say, "Oh, let's make another division," because then our focus goes away from like making those divisions as like perfectly as possible, and then it just says, "Okay, let's try to make this quick feet division as good as possible." I definitely think there's maybe an argument for having quick feet in the future. And I saw in like two other leagues people saying, oh, DGBA had 154 applications. Why didn't they just have another division? Like they're big enough. They have like a significant number of like moderators. So why don't they just have one? I don't think it's really as simple as that. And I also don't feel like I also, just because you have the space doesn't mean you should necessarily do it. I know there are like some other points. I think I'll move this to Jack because there's also stuff to do with like the
I mean,
moderating of that division.
yeah, I mean, before we even start on that, I think that also what you were saying, very true in the fact in terms of we were very much focused on making sure Poison Point, because we thought Poison Point was a pretty big issue last season, and we were very much focused on making Poison Point as good as possible. And having a lot of changes in Swarm with a few people dropping, a few people even not returning in a way, for like we didn't want to return because we just didn't think they were good enough for the league, or not good enough for the league, but good for the league
Yeah,
long
yeah,
term.
like they either just didn't fit the skill level we're looking for, or just didn't really fit the community.
Yeah, or just didn't speak at all.
Yeah.
Um, just if you wanna, it's what you're saying, right? Like you want to make the things you have right now perfect or good enough, so you can later on maybe have a fourth division that you
Yeah.
can then also help with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sorry.
what um I think that what you were just talking about with the moderators, I think we are kind of low on, I mean, not low because we have a full council, obviously, but moderating is not, I've noticed this in the off-season tour that we had. Moderating isn't just, doing the document and then having people be scheduled. It's not just that. You need to keep an image up, and some people might not be ready for that just yet.
Mm.
I mean, and maybe if they are, like for example, KHD, some people just like KHD. I think KHD is a bit. Oh, I think KHD will be overwhelmed in that sense if you would be a moderator for a division. So I
Yeah,
think that
I
would
could
also
maybe
be.
see
Bro,
I think
calling out my
like.
man, my heart, my man.
Is this
So I
where
can
we
I
just
can
call
see what
people
you
out?
were
No.
already talking about.
that. I wasn't gonna mention any names, but you do you, Jeremy.
I'm
Uh,
saying KHD specifically because KHD already
Oh yeah,
runs the
oh
league and
fair
is
enough.
pretty
Yeah,
busy
yeah.
as a person, right? So I think that would be overwhelming to him, and maybe it's not the right time yet. But I don't know. What did you want to say, Jack, about it?
Yeah. I mean, it has quite a bit of it. I mean, like we said earlier, right when the season ends, we want to assess sort of just how season 10 went overall, and we just felt between just how we felt every division went, it just didn't seem right to just focus on doing another division when we need to focus on making sure these other divisions are good. And it's not just as simple as just adding another division. It does take finding someone, because essentially if you're adding the division, you need another admin, and you need more moderators for
Yeah.
that as well. And we're along with making sure these divisions are good, we're trying to, or I've been trying to make sure that our admins and moderators for each division are more structured and there's more definition to them, in terms of like who's modding what division and all that. And then if you're adding another division on top of that, you have to find even more of those people. And while I'm sure there's probably people in DGBA that would be really interested in pursuing that, at the moment, just with everything going on, making sure all three divisions are working well, it just doesn't seem like it would have been the right time to focus on that during this off season.
I have 12 points on that. First of all, I think DGB as a league are way more picky in terms of deciding mods and admins than a lot of other leagues, because even all our mods, right? It's you, Jeremy, Killer, and Aggro do so much behind the scenes, which a lot of people don't see. So all of them have like a really, really like big dedication towards the league and put a lot of time into that. So it's really hard to find those kinds of people. And the other point I want to make is that once you make a fourth division, it's really, really hard to undo it. So it's not as, and even if you do undo it, it just makes you look really, really bad. And
Yeah, I don't know. To me, something like adding a fourth division, it makes it feel like it's a lot less of like an accomplishment to actually get in the league. If we're just adding 16 more spots, then like that over doubles, and like we would have just let basically whoever.
yeah, that I like. I'm
It just
definitely
doesn't.
there's definitely a part of me that's for it because there's a lot of people that I wanted to let into the league this season that we unfortunately couldn't. And if
Yeah,
we
we had
had
a
the
pretty
Yeah,
big
extra
short
division,
list. We had a pretty big
yeah,
it's
short list,
definitely.
even people in like because we had a lot of we had a few criteria or not criteria but
Mm.
like we had a few what's it called tiering sort of not really
Yeah,
we had a lot of people who weren't on the short list who we also thought were could be pretty good for the league as well. So
Yeah,
that's just to see because we already had 25 people on the short list for just 12 spots, so that's already something we can look at and say like that's something we can be proud of to have that many people that are already really good for the we think are already really good for the league.
yeah, and also when you add another division, you're taking away a lot of like potential replacements as well, which is
Yeah.
important because I think the replacement pool also has to be really, really solid. Because then you're still
Hmm.
pulling quality into the league rather than if people drop, then you're like diminishing it too much.
Yeah, that's probably at
Yeah.
last season too. We sort of started to almost like run out of replacements, and to think like if we had another division on top of that, like
Yeah.
it wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever um, to do that. And we also talked about sort of the season. I think it has mentioned this before. Like we think in general, summertime, for DGBA is going to get more apps than like a wintertime DGBA, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And also considering everything that's going on in the world right now, like it does make sense that we received a lot of more applications than we did in the past. And that was also because, of course, our league's gotten a lot bigger. But I mean, who knows? Maybe next season we do get just about
I
as many
mean,
applicants. But
I can definitely vouch for that for what you're saying. Like I seen a lot of bigger leagues and other servers where people just talk about the DGBA. Like even if it's just because of the draft, like people are talking about their own drafts. A lot of people already also talk really well about the league, and I think that you and Has specifically because you both are the commissioners, of course. You do a very good job at making sure that the DGBA as a public server is also very maturely handled and doesn't really get into anything like controversial and stuff. Like
mm.
you really are doing a good job at keeping that image up. And maybe is there something that you changed a little bit because we also had an off-season tournament where obviously a lot of new people joined and some people we weren't really satisfied with. What did you guys look into to keep that image up as a public server? What do you, because as admin team, you do a little bit more than just the council, and I didn't really see anything of that. What did you do to keep that up?
uh, as I can take this.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, with being a public server, you're bound and with because we received a lot of new people joining the server with this off-season tournament that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Before we had in the past we've had two and they've been a bit smaller, and we've used it as sort of something DGBA coaches can use to play during the off season, and also try to invite new people into the league that can help us get a better idea of who they are as a player, and if they want to apply, we already have a better idea of who they are. But with this off season, we had so many people join the server. I think it was honestly more than I expected, and probably more than anyone expected to join. And with that, you're probably bound to get some people that maybe don't fit sort of your server image or sort of what you're trying to go for in the community. So, we did talk quite a bit about, like, we did have a bit of a situation where we had a bit of a problem in our general. Some people were complaining, and it's something that we do have to address. Like, it's a public server. Everyone should feel safe and fine here, and we just had to. Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought. But shoot.
It's about the comfortability, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. Yeah, some people
like a lot of
just felt
like
uncomfortable in the server, which is
like
not.
there's another like really big server that is open server, and they really go for like comfortability. Like everybody must feel comfortable, and otherwise it's not really
Mhm.
like they really wanted to make everyone feel welcomed. And I think that DGBA really has more of a balance into that, where you can still be yourself, even if you're a bit more controversial, but at the same time you still have a filter. I think that's also a big part. But in that moment, or that specific time period, I think that filter kind of just wasn't there enough, because I saw a lot of people, for example, just saying the chat isn't as it used to be and stuff. While now it is really popping, and I see a lot of people returning that used to be a lot of main chat presences, even if they're not in the league.
Mhm.
I
I think
think that yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah. This was also a problem that we've never really had to deal with before. Even with being a public server, the GGBA has changed a lot since it first started, and that it was a very very close knit group of people, and not
Yeah.
until like I don't even know what season, maybe.
It was season 5 when Zazo plugged it in his channel.
Yeah,
That's when it became public.
and over the course of the seasons after that, the server started to get bigger and bigger, and we never really had to deal with sort of mass problems yet. Maybe the problem here or there of someone being toxic, but we never had to deal with problems like this, and it did really make us think like this situation that we had. Like, this is a big public server now. There's tons of people here, and it's not just a close knit group of people anymore. Like, it's a full blown community where a bunch of people that play draft come and just at least not even just playing, but at least talking. And if the chat is a problem for people and they feel like it's too much, then I guess it just defies sort of what we're going for and being public.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think the other difficult thing about the situation was the fact that a lot of these people were also playing in the tournament themselves. So it was really hard. Just you couldn't just say, okay, we're banning you, and you, and then suddenly we need all these replacements, and other people go, oh, okay, they have to have a lot of replacements in this tour. I don't know, maybe I'm not feeling it as much, So we kind of had to make sure the timing was right in terms of doing the what our response would be. I also felt like some of the people
Yeah.
who we did end up kicking maybe didn't realize necessarily themselves that they'd maybe overstepped the line on certain occasions as well. So, and there were also a lot of people who were on the borderline of maybe not. And we had to be really sensible. We didn't want it to be like some sort of witch hunt. We ban everyone just because they said something like toxic maybe once or something.
Yeah, because you're still an open server, right? You want to make it for
Right.
everyone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
We have to.
you still have to. You can't have like such a look where you look like you just moderating every little tiny thing and not allowing people to like enjoy themselves, I guess. Because like if you don't allow them to say so many, over time the chat's just gonna be restricted, and no one's really gonna want to like talk there. So you can't just like, even if someone messes up one time, we shouldn't just still ban them for that. It was really only like.
Yeah,
people
like
who were
all
doing
of our
it.
bans had to be somewhat justified,
Yeah.
and I mean,
And even
Right.
then, I don't think that they were super justified. I think it was mostly you are too big of a presence that doesn't help us go to where we want this league to be.
yeah,
I
I
think there
mean,
was
well,
I don't
if
think
it was like if it were being like that level, they would have been like auto banned. But
yeah, there was no like super toxic thing that they said and they just got banned for it. So I
Yeah,
think that
right.
wasn't really the case.
Yeah, it was just like a multitude of like small things really that kind of just built up.
Yeah.
It's, like when you hear like other people saying other servers like, oh, I used to like talking DGBA, but recently it's kind of gone downhill because X and X are just like talking about such and such. And like as a public server, yes, like these people might feel like hard done by, but we have to kind of look at the bigger picture rather than like individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And if we feel like they're not like having them is like gonna reduce like our overall image or is gonna make less people like want to be active in our server, then I feel like we have to go for what's like best for the whole community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that it also really helped with our application process because a lot of people who, um, a lot of people started to become more active, and a lot of people who decided to sign up were really active,
Mm.
and weren't really that much before. And I think that really helped us also like decide, okay, this person really fits in and talks a lot, and he is also pretty good at the game. Um, but one thing I was always not sure of with the application process, we already touched upon it a bit. We changed a few things with just the questions, but we also changed how we looked at apps. And I think that this whole situation at the same time also really helped us with making sure that some people weren't getting in just because they were good and friends with us, but at the same time also like they just weren't fit in terms of what we really wanted to accomplish. I don't because like there was a certain person who we are friends with who we just didn't accept because they weren't, what we were looking for in terms of what we later wanted. And I think that that situation really helped us in this case.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about, but yeah. Um, like it's a difficult situation because after we announce all the people, obviously you always get some like salty and disappointed people, which I mean I can understand, like
Yeah.
not getting into a league and such. Like I'm not gonna like be like too harsh on like certain like responses, you know. But there were like some people saying, "Oh, you just let your friends in," and other people saying, "Oh, like there were like other people who felt like they like should have been in the league, like felt like they were owed it as such," which I think was
Hmm.
kind of, I think that was kind of like kind of ridiculous. I mean, I feel like some people maybe there's an argument for it, but generally I feel like no one's really owed a spot as such, especially when like you're always looking forward. We can't be biased in certain in terms of like letting this person in just because we're friends with them as such.
Hmm.
Like,
I know that Jack had an opinion about it too, like with owing people stuff. Like I
Um,
don't know what.
I mean, sort of. I mean, that more so goes towards like our old coaches, because of course we want
Hmm.
to, we feel like coaches have been here since the beginning. We do want to sort of almost give priority to them, but also we want to have new life in the community, and that's something that was also sort of mentioned with our divisions as well, and that like sort of defining like whether or not we base these off skill or like seniority in the league. It is a bit of a tough decision. Um, but in terms of like the applications as a whole, I think with so many applications and so little spots, you really have to criticize the applications and really see like, okay, because the applications essentially for new people is we're meeting you for the first time, and you have to sell us like why you should be in the league and sell everything you can know about us that we should know about you. Because writing a couple words and stuff like that isn't going to give us a good idea of who you are, which is also why we look at things like the tournament, like them talking in our community to give us a better idea of who they are, so we can make a better um, we can just it makes our decisions a lot easier when we know more about you.
But we can give him better judgment.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but
So if you're just
yeah,
writing a few words in your application, not saying much, and then don't talk at all on the server, like it doesn't make us confident to want to pick these kind of people. Like it's hard to justify it versus someone who's put in a lot of work in their application and talked a lot on the server.
yeah, I know that first of all, I think that we are going a bit all over the place, but I think that's also a bit good because when we were um, setting up the season, a lot of things we did were all over the place, and I think that kind of shows in what we're doing now. We're going a little bit chronologically, and it's kind of we were going all over the place because applications went and then off-season stuff was still going on and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that it was a little bit hectic for how you guys were trying to set up the structure in it all? Because I know Jack really put a lot of emphasis during everything to make it more structured. And for example, with tiering, like a lot of it was really structured, and we knew for sure what was going on and when and stuff like that. So do you think that was a little bit of a problem, or do you think that it helped us?
I mean, I think we handled it well. I mean, I think I knew beforehand, like, based on sort of what we planned out with our off-season tournament, when we want applications to come out, when we want applications to end. We knew that there was going to be a lot of things happening at once, and there was no real way to do it, all chronologically, because it wouldn't have made sense. Because there's also a lot of uncertainty with, do we want to include this DLC? Like, do we want to push the season back?
Yeah.
Like, it's not as easy as just doing things chronologically, and so just having everything planned out that you need to do, and sort of
Yeah, because we did try to do it a little chronologically with the off-season tournament, and then we wanted to do the applications and stuff. But we already started a little bit before then with the applications and kind of mixed them together.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of work that we have to do, and it just doesn't make sense to do it chronologically. And so you're going to be doing multiple things at once, and it can be hard if there's very limited people doing it, or not a lot of people that are dedicated. But lucky for us, like, we have a council there with very dedicated people that want to help out and can all make sure they're working on certain things at once that make things go a lot easier. So yeah, I just think in general, like, it was hectic, but I think it was manageable, and I think it was sort of a given that it was going to be like this, just because of how many things that we have to do, other than because we also, other than just the league, you have to sort out the server as well and add new things, keep interest there. It's more than just making sure the league starts on time and sorting stuff out. It's making sure the interest is still there as well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that goes on.
Yeah, because we also do like a lot of other stuff than just, for example, the off-season tournament. We also sometimes just do these random events like the Easter challenge or the drawing thing, the drawing competition. Like those kind of things are really fun to do as a community, and I think that's also something we really do well in that sense.
Yeah, just trying to balance all those different things, like making sure
Yeah.
like there's like always like something to do like in the server.
Yeah, there's always something to do. There's always a reason to be interested in the DGBA, and that's why I think we're also doing a really good job at keeping, like, for example, right now the chat is really active, and I think that is really a thing that everybody has contributed to, and I think the Has and Agronauts have really, especially with the events, I think those things are really cool, what they think of and what they do in that sense. So I must applaud you to that.
Yeah, it's just like different like fun ways that people who maybe like aren't necessarily like in the league can still like get into like still like have a way of
the
like, getting
community.
into the community.
Well,
Exactly.
you see,
Yeah.
I think that's something kind of unique about our league, that there's, even if it's off season, there's literally always at least something going on, whether it's like AMAs like we have right now, or like the regular season, obviously, or if it's like the events, if it's an off season tournament, anything like that, there's always something happening. So there's like
even,
always a reason
especially for the council, especially for the council, because we as the council have so many things on our to-do list, and
yeah, there's always stuff to work on as well.
but
Yeah.
So like
of
it's
course,
pretty
as a
different to
council,
a lot
we're
of leagues, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of them during the off season, you just kind of look in the chat and just
Yeah, I've
kind of just
noticed that
completely
too.
dead.
Like I was kind of
Um,
worried, like, is our chat gonna be like dead during the off season? Because I look at a lot of other leagues during the off season, besides like stuff like MLP and WPF, which I don't think they even know the definition of an off season. But
yeah.
yeah, you just
Holy moly.
like you just see them and they're just kind of like dead. You see them talk like once in a while, but the community's just still been like really, really active, like even during that like
Yeah,
period.
I think
Even
a lot of
before
that
the
is
tournament.
because we give them a reason to be active.
Exactly,
Like, I
right.
think that's a big like majority of the reason why it's always active, because
Yeah,
there's always something going on.
exactly, right.
And having it
Like I
be-
feel like without that, definitely the chat could be dead, could be like
Mm.
kind of dead, or at least a lot more dead than it is. than it would be like otherwise. But it is definitely hard to it's definitely hard to balance all of that stuff. Like, and I don't understand why other leagues don't do it, but I think it's one of the best things we do. Because keeping a chat active, especially when it's like a server with like what, nearly 500 people in it, keeping like an established community can be quite difficult at times. Because a lot of the time you just have a bunch of random people popping in and talking, and it can be kind of hard to kind of keep the chat actually like there's actually a point of the chat,
Right.
which is a good thing we do, I feel.
Yeah, and like doing all those like the Easter challenge, me and Aggro had to like stay up like really, really late. It's not just like thinking of these things as well. We have to like
It's also
test
the
them to make
dedication.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that as
Yeah,
well.
you guys have to use me as a test dummy.
Yeah, we have to test them to see if like will it work. We have to test the mechanics to say like is there like anything like wrong and stuff, you know. And then also like a lot of people get really, really passionate about it, especially during the last Easter challenge. Like a lot of people like really, really dedicated. So you have to like you know, you have to deal with that stuff as well. But overall, it's like really, really fun. I'm glad we do these sorts of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And maybe we should.
No.
I think Jeremy cut out.
Yeah, I think it is well.
bro.
Jeremy has died, guys.
Oh no.
So how's everyone's day been?
Oh, fantastic.
I just want to add that conversation quickly. Like, just in general, like keeping the chat active, it gives us a better idea and gauge of like whether or not there's still interest in the league as well. Like if you're because of a completely dead chat during the off season, like for all you know, your league's gonna turn dead next season. The interest isn't gonna be there. There's always something you need to try and keep interest as much as possible in the league. Oh, Zach is some decent, yeah.
I'll move him. Yeah, like welcome back, Jeremy. Like so,
Sorry,
like
sorry.
there are
Welcome
moments,
back.
and it's not very common, but there are like some moments where I say stuff in the chat just to like get the ball rolling. But once the ball's rolling, I care
The ball
about
is rolling hard.
exactly right.
It's like a snowball effect, right?
Yeah, right, and that's and sometimes you have to do that like during an off season when there's like like you have to give people reasons to talk, but like once they start talking, then you have, then you can get people like involved and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's definitely like an aspect to that as well, and probably why I have way too many messages compared to everyone else.
Yeah, even with me speaking like because I kind of just type like how I think. So if I like think with like if somewhere there's like a comma or like an end of a sentence, I just post it. I just enter, and even then you still have like way more messages, which kind of impressive, I'd say.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to say is that I think we have like one of the most active like voice channels as well. Like there's always
yeah, for sure.
people there like every day, and I feel like that's also like another reason like people like come to our like server exactly just so they can like talk with each other during like VC and stuff. So that's like
we specifically made a different like role for VCs because we already had one, but we like made a different one because VC was just that different and that much like that active that we had to change it a bit.
Yeah, like I remember like in the old DGBA, like no one like Jack can even say no one like ever used to VC until like season 7 pretty much. I don't think it was like touched at all. Besides like when we were making videos, that's the only time anyone like ever VC'd. But then like after that, like once there was like a slight culture change and like VCs became really popular, like you got to see like VCs like pretty much every day.
Yeah, we VC pretty much like literally every day. I can't think of a day that we don't VC.
Right, exactly, and that's like, and then you get like a whole like people become closer as a result. Like you learn like so much from like people, and just it's like more reason to talk. So I think that's like another like aspect.
Yeah, I remember when I first joined in like season 6.
Yeah.
The only VC I think the whole season was the one for the great Poison Point draft stream.
Oh yes.
Incredible.
Mike Man WBA
Incredible.
stream.
Yes.
Yeah, and then like in season 7, I think we started using it to play games and stuff, which is why
that's when we
VC
made
role was
the games night role.
games night role. And then it just evolved into like just people just chatting in general, just using it just to like
Yeah,
see like how people are doing.
because season 7 and like season 8, we played just basically a bunch of scribble. Um, pretty much that's just what the VC was,
Yeah, but
and
I
then
think
now it's just kind of
it's
used
like
to show
evolved over time, pretty much.
for sure.
Yeah. So I think before we move on to the next part, I have a question that is also a little bit about myself. Um, the mod team, we had a slight change where um, JP is now not the moderator of Speed Boost, but I am. I have a
Rip
slight
JP,
question
my
in
man,
Rip
my
JP.
man.
JP is a good
Oh
lad.
my god.
Still in the server and still in the league. Love
Yeah,
him. He's a really nice guy.
bro. Honestly, I feel like JP's one of the like the most important like people in the league that we've had, and like in terms of especially in terms of like activity and like the community and stuff. Like even though you don't really see it much these days, like he was like one of like the big like characters of the league.
For sure.
Like people would like talk just to like talk with JP, and I feel like that's like very much underappreciated. So like even though he's like become more quiet these days and like he's no longer a mod, I definitely still feel like he should be like a respected member of the community.
Yeah, I agree. I do have a slight question though. It's also personal interest, but I think that it's also still pretty
Sure.
important to know. Um,
Well,
how
that's
did you
genuine
guys
correspondence.
how did you guys like decide on the moderators? Because Killer was assigned last season to the Poison
Yeah.
Point mod, and I was this season with Speed Boost. I don't know when Agronauts became the moderator for Swarm.
Aggro was
last
added last season as well.
Yeah.
But basically, Jack just goes, okay, so who do you guys want
Yeah.
to moderate? Like he asks
Yeah.
us, like the admins.
Oh,
and we just
he
hit
he actually
decide.
asked the admins of the
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want a simple answer, it's
We
literally I
decide
went
which
and
which mod we
I
want.
literally said you guys can pick whatever mod you want, whatever mod you think is best, whatever mod you
Oh, so
think will
you
actually
kind of
help
pick
you
it as a
most.
duo.
Yeah,
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 so
that's
kind
kind
of
of like how Jack, like when I was the commissioner, I kind of like, I'll be honest, the mods weren't really my strong point. I think there was one season where like, everyone became the mod at some point, just because I just wanted
Oh,
to
there was
see
one
like,
season there was like 20 mods. That was hard.
well, it was kind of more because I just wanted to play around and like see like how different people would like take on the role and such. But I feel like Jack's made it like much more defined, in terms of like not only what they do, but like there were like certain mods who like just never did anything. But I feel like now like every mod is like
Call them
has
out,
like
call them
knows
out,
what they have to
call
do
them
and they're always like
Wow.
able to
Mhm.
like do their role.
Yeah, I mean, we essentially have a mod for each division, and it to me just makes the most sense that whoever's running each division can get to choose who they want to work with, who they think would just be the best fit, and that's just this is the easy way to say it. That's just sort of how it goes. I think it's a good
So I'm assuming the next question is going to be directed at me then.
idea.
I don't know what question you were thinking of personally, actually.
Why I chose you over anyone else?
Oh, no. It was more so how you guys decided on the moderators. That was
Oh,
only really
okay,
what I
okay,
wanted to know.
okay.
No.
What?
Bro,
The
Parksy
next-
was right there. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, dude, Parksy should have been it. I think
Parksy
Parksy,
got robbed.
Parksy would have probably denied anyway. He would have wanted a better mod or an
Bro,
admin, sorry.
like there's like a meme in like I think it's either season 4 or 5 where Parksy says in like a season or 2 time I'll become an admin or something, and here we are in season 11. He's still not a mod.
Unreal. I've done him dirty. This is.
All right.
You're funny, yeah.
I've already got the roster in front of me, but what do you guys want to talk about first? Do you think? What do you guys think is more interesting? The promotions for the season, the promotion, or the relegations, or the new?
Yeah, let's
Because I
start
think
with
we have a
promotions and
lot.
relegations.
The
Sure.
relegations. There's
Okay,
one
Because we
relegation.
obviously had like a lot
That is
of
more than
changes
all.
to the lower divisions. Speed Boost not so much, was really nice because Speed Boost is really hard to find people for that fit. But we really didn't have that much issues with it. So I think we could start off there a little bit, or actually let's start with relegations because like Speed Boost, JJ and KHD they relegated.
yeah,
JJ went to Poison Point, and something specific is KHD who relegated to Swarm. KHD is obviously a little bit more specific of a situation, but what do you think of situation, especially with what we decided to do instead of relegating him to Poison Point with JJ.
So basically, we just completely hate KT and everything he stands for, and decided he wasn't
Yes.
even good enough to be a point. Just kicked him right down the swarm. No real second thought about it. Don't like this guy. He's a much. That was the whole. I think that sums it up.
Even though I didn't hear half of what Chaz says, I have to
Nah, neither.
agree.
Same.
I feel like Keiichi's a weird one because the first 2 seasons, he actually people forget he actually didn't do all too bad. Like I think he had like a pretty good first season in Speed Boost, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, last season it just really hasn't gone his way. I feel like also Keiichi's kind of like I haven't really seen him do all that well in like leagues in general for like a good while. And well, one thing we want to do with Poison Point is we kind of want to like balance it out as such, like maybe make it a bit more competitive. And I also feel like for like KHC's sake, I feel like if he had like, I feel like his confidence would have been like better suited to like try to build up and swarm rather than him having like another like bad season in Poison Point.
Yeah, one thing that was really obvious with KG was that his confidence was really at an all-time low.
Yeah. Like he was completely dead by the end of the season. So I think like for me, even though I meme him a lot, I personally do want to see him do well because he has like a big investment to the league. Like we might meme about him a lot. He might be kind of whack here and there, but like by the end of the season, he kind of looked like he'd been like a cat that's been run over like fucking 9 times. I was just like, bro, it's gotta stop, man. It's gotta stop. So I feel like putting Keiichi in Swarm was just probably. I feel like it was probably best for all parties. I know it is a big decision to like double relegate or like manually, but I feel like for like all parties, I think it was the best solution.
Yeah.
Well, it's also
we also had like
not
we also
the first
were
time
able
we did
to.
this.
Yeah. We were also able to speak with Keiichi, obviously, because he was in the council. For it all, we were able to speak with him.
Yeah, like he kept flipping his opinions. Like one day, I'd rather play in Swarm. Next, he's like, I can maybe do Poison. And the other one's like,
but in my opinion, if you're like a bit like that, you should just do like put him in Swarm, because at that point it's like better to have you in Swarm instead of Poison Point and like having the risk of it happening again. And if it does happen again, that could be like a killer. Like you can just say like, no, I don't want to play Mons anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's also like something because we like KHC as a member of our community, even though we don't show it very often. Yeah, that was kind of the thought process behind that, and as well as that meant you could also promote more people into Swarm from Swarm to Poison Point, which is another thing that we were kind of looking at, and like. Because we felt that Swarm was like very like a lot of people were like very committed to the league. That if we could blood them into Poison Point, that could like carry through pretty much.
Mm-hmm. We'll probably get there when we go to promotions, but
that's like another thing.
That was a very good point that was brought up, and what we really had to discuss quite a bit, for sure. For Poison Point relegations, it was kind of, pretty normal. It was just Agronauts, and the other person wasn't really. The other person wasn't really fit for
who shall not be named.
Agronauts was robbed.
Yeah, Agronauts was robbed for sure.
Was robbed.
I'm sorry, Agronauts. You kind of deserve to get relegated. I don't know. Like even I was talking to Joel, and he like feels like that like people are like starting to believe the fact that we all think that like Agronauts got relegated because of that whole situation.
No,
even though it was kind of like it was a mutual joining thing rather than.
I kind of wanted to bring it up earlier when we were talking about Poison Point as a division itself, but usually Agronauts is like really invested into the league and is a pretty big chat presence. But last season he was kind of dead because of school and stuff.
Yeah, so like a lot of stuff was on his mind.
that's like a big thing because like last season we also had me in Poison Point and
Yeah.
um like what you said, there was a soul in Swarm and Speed was there wasn't really for Poison Point. But last season was really like basically me being super active and then like a few people like
Yeah,
here and there.
I
And
mean,
then
I wouldn't say it's like no one was investing. It's like, but
I
there was
mean
like
no,
it's
of
like
course
half
not.
and
It's not
half, I think.
yeah, it's
But I
like
feel like that's very like for our standards, that's very significant, you know.
yeah, and aggro just had like a little bit of a dip, a little bit of slump
Yeah.
in that, and that's kind of what provided him, or not provided, like put him into this position to relegate. But Agronauts in Swarm really isn't that weird, or not weird. It's or not that bad. Like it's not bad for Poison Point, and I don't think it's bad for Swarm either, especially because aggro is really active other than that specific time period.
Yeah, like I feel like Agros is like one of the best players in Swarm. I will say I've noticed he's been kind of burnt out on Mons a bit more recently, and I feel like if that continues, that could like affect how he plays in Swarm. But like if he's able to like find his motivation, I think he could do very well in like Swarm and like redeem himself. Because you have to remember the season like he promoted midway through the season, and he was doing really really well on Poison Point before then.
He was feasting. Oh,
Yeah,
his
He
and
was
like
Sub-Zero was going
feasting.
insane. Oh my.
yeah, so I just hope it clicks for him this season. Like he didn't like his team as well, which I think also like factored into like maybe like why he kind of slumped last season.
Yeah, if you don't like your team, it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
find the motivation to play.
And then I think
Yeah.
a similar thing kind of also like maybe like it was like less public. I think a similar thing kind of happened with JJ as well. I remember like midway through the season speed boost,
I
he
mean,
had
JJ
like
wasn't JJ like really busy with like his marriage
yeah
and
he
stuff as
had
well?
work and stuff. Like he kept having to
Yeah.
like get extensions. I can't remember what it was
Doesn't he have like
exactly.
didn't he like marry around that time?
That was before the
I'm
season.
not
Yeah,
sure.
it was like around the start of the season that happened.
Mm. I
But
mean,
he
that's
like
still like really annoying.
Yeah. We pushed the season back a tiny bit, like for
yeah,
him to
just for
get that.
him.
Yeah. I could
That's
help
sweet.
JJ.
That's a sweet thing to do.
Mhm.
No, so something that I really think is important to see here is that instead of Agronauts and KHD in Poison Point, we do get Dja and Data, who are both very capable players, especially Dja. I'm very impressed with him. I say Dja, but I like to say Ja. Ja, I think, is a very capable player, and I think that Data, on top of being very capable, because Ja is obviously um, he's decently active, but Data is really like super active, and I think that really helps
Yeah.
Poison Point as a division.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think both of them had like a
Mhm.
good showing in Swarm. I'm really interested to see how they do in Poison Boy against like some really good players that we've added and like some good players that are already there.
It also gave us the space for the two manual promotions we did with
Yeah,
Hunter and Nick, which both arguably maybe should have been in Poison and Swarm to start. Because they both been doing well whenever they were there, and Hunter kind of got screwed over, because he replaced a King Clyde.
Yeah, bro. I mean, Hunter kind of got robbed from the whole fact that people thought he was gonna be like
yeah.
hella dead.
Yeah.
And
Hunter
then
kind of got fucked that line.
yeah, poor bro, manly soap. I don't know.
Poor Hunter.
Poor
So I've
guy.
before we go on with Hunter, I think that Nick is someone very specific that we should talk about, and I want to hear Jack's opinion about him as well because
Sure.
Nick's in the council, but at this which obviously helped him a little bit. Nick is very dedicated to the league, and especially with like if we look at Swarm and even the promotion in Swarm of Ja, Nick has provided a lot of new life to Swarm and has also been very active. And I want to hear Jack's thoughts on Nick promoting because Nick has really has had really good what can we call it like he
Success.
started like he got to semis like both seasons like season 1 and season 2 for Swarm
Mhm.
No, he
and
lost. He lost
Jack
round one.
He lost round
Season
one, but I think he had like
Oh, did he?
yeah,
He
I
was
think
like
he's had
third in standings or something like that, though.
yeah, I think
Or
he had
second,
an
if I'm
8-2 season in the first season, then 7-3 the next season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, those are
8-2,
still
and then he
pretty
was
good
only
stats.
behind Dyla, who was like
Yeah.
9-1.
So what I want to hear from Jack is, what do you think Nick provides to Poison Point in specific? Not just to the league, because
Yeah.
he's done obviously more for the league than we can
Mm-hmm.
touch upon. But what do you think he can provide for Poison Point this season?
Well, I think one of the problems with Poison in the past was just the bit of consistency between some games being done and not. And I think Nick, over the past 2 seasons of Swarman he was in, showed a lot of consistency in the games that he's played and showed really good performances overall. From him being in the council and us knowing him for the past 2 seasons and for a while now, we know he's a very dedicated player and he really, really wants to improve and play some of the best. And he's really adamant in wanting to promote and really try and prove himself. Um, so I think overall, I think he's just going to add a bit more of a consistent basis to the poise point, which is something that we were looking for in the first place when we assessed the divisions at the end of season 10, and that we really want to focus on poise point, making sure that it's consistent, making sure that there's life in it, and there's players that really want to prove themselves and get into speed boost as well. I think it's really all there is to it. It's a pretty straightforward thing. I think it was a good decision overall as well. So.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if Nick being council like helped his case. If anything, I feel like at times it kind of hindered it with how like passionate he is.
I think it kind of goes both ways because Nick does show what we kind of wanted for people in Poison Point. Like we wanted people who were dedicated, we wanted people who were committed to the league, and Nick does obviously show that. So I think in that case he does kind of had a little bit of an advantage. But either way, I think Nick was for sure the best manual promotion we could have had out of anyone in Swarm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and I think Hunter is just a really good player who should have been in Poison Point from the start, but he got kind of robbed because he was a replacement, right? So
yeah,
he got kind of robbed that way.
He was a replacement on the team that was like bottom in the league and had 1 win.
Yeah, and you can't really, and it was really late into the season as well.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he was 1-3 or something. Like he came in like 1-7 or some shit.
Yeah, it was like something like that.
So yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like I feel like the part of Hunter was the fact that he's done well in like other things. But also I feel like Hunter still like he's like still pretty active in like the league.
Yeah, for sure. He's pretty active, I think.
Yeah, and like he's still like even though I feel like people have like a really like higher standards for him because of like what he's done recently, but he still had like a good showing in Swarm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why I feel like his promotion was overall like justified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
You think so?
And then one thing I do kind of think is annoying or was annoying for Poison Point is that me and Dave promoted to Speed Boost because Speed Boost or no Poison Point, like you said, it didn't have like a soul in it, and I was really active, and Dave was also pretty active. He was like one of the most active people, I think. I mean, it was kind of like a bit from everyone, and then me who was like pretty much the most active, I think.
Okay, you don't have to keep sucking your own dick like this.
Yeah.
No. I'm just a no. I'm not sucking myself off. I'm just saying that I'm really
bro. Give my man.
I'm just a no lifer.
Give my man Hugh some respect. Give my man Liquor Moose some respect.
I said active. I didn't say good. If I was going good, then I wasn't going to be talking about it.
Give my man Jeff some respect. My man Spice.
No. Give my man Spice some respect. My
man Cena as well. Oh my god. Oh.
No, I do understand what you're just saying. So basically, yeah, like that's definitely an issue, and I definitely feel like that's like kind of like more than balanced out from the promotions that we also did.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel like that's okay as well. Like
I just needed that good segue. Nah, but I think that we really managed to cover up for like the loss of those two people. Talking to third person or whatever. I think that we did a good job of like making sure that wasn't a problem, and in general, I think that Dave is a good player in and of itself. I'm not going to talk about myself. I think Dave is a good player, and he was in Speed Boost before. I think he definitely belongs here as long as he
Sure.
isn't, because Dave also has a really good chat presence. Like especially right now, I think he really fits in with the community. I think I like Dave. I just think he's a great guy overall.
Yeah, Dave was an interesting one because, I mean, because he played in season 9 and was in Speed Boost, and I think he had a decent record before he had to drop, unfortunately.
Yeah, he had to drop.
And
Yeah, I think he was like even, if I
Yeah.
recall.
yeah, which isn't. I
But
mean, with
yeah.
an even record, you're not relegating, and so
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Especially that's like decent considering like the circumstances.
yeah, and
I
so
think that's also because like in season 10, we weren't really that we didn't really look at like the goods and bads good enough for applications, and then we had a lot of good applications like Hiker Toad, for example, who's a really good player, obviously, and a pretty good champion right now as well.
Mm.
And I think that is what, because otherwise I think they would have just been put into Speed Boost again.
Yeah.
So
Like we
him,
were gonna put him in speed boots, and last minute the 6 foot hacks application kind of like pushed him to poison points.
down, yeah, push him a little
Yeah.
bit down.
mhm.
So
we
yeah, I
do a
think the
pretty
Dave
tough spot
promotion
that
was really
season.
good.
Mhm.
Dave also won the league for Poison Point, which I really I want to applaud him with that. I think he had a really great season overall.
Mhm.
Um, One thing for Speed Boost is obviously we had an off season tour,
Yep.
and we had one person being Luke, admin, the admin of the DGBA Poison Point. He dropped from Speed Boost. I don't know. I don't remember why he exactly dropped
I think
for
it's
this
it's
season.
it's kind of burnout because he played in 2 finals, one for OLT, one for PCBL. His PCBL one, he kind of got a lucky win. In the OLT one, he kind of like choked a bit, like how he played. I think a combination of that kind of just made him fall out of love with Mons, and he kind of just needed like a breather or such. Like I think he
Oh yeah,
kind of
just a
did
bit of
that
time off.
because like he's on your TTT team, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's like not planned to play for like the first. Uh,
Yeah, but that's not because of that, if I remember correctly. He had like a specific reason, but he's still
yeah,
active in like my TDT chat.
yeah, exactly.
And
So
yeah, I don't think it's because he's like super busy or whatever. I just think it's like a little bit of passion loss and stuff. I
mm,
mean, he's still busy, but I can get that.
yeah,
I mean, even though Luke did drop, Luke was the only person who we lost from Speed Boost,
yeah,
which is
Mhm.
pretty good,
It's pretty
honestly, because
wild if
Speed
you
Boost is
honestly think
really
about it.
hard to find.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty wild.
it's good. It's good. We have like such a dedicated group of people
mm,
that
Speed
want to
Boost,
play.
yeah.
It's nice.
Speed Boost is really good, really dedicated, and that's what I really appreciate about it. But in place, or as a sort of replacement, not really, we have the person who actually won our off-season tournament, being Techno, Base Techno. Base Techno is obviously a really good player, and he was pretty active. He's not that active right now, but I think he could definitely fit in well with a community.
Mhm.
I don't know, what do you guys think of him? Because I think that he's obviously skilled. But what do you guys think other than him being skilled for the league?
yeah. I've watched him for a while, like before like he like retired, and I was always like very impressed with him. I always thought he was like a very good player, and well, I didn't really think at the time that he'd ever end up playing in this league, but it's very cool to see him like here, and I definitely think he can definitely like do well uh in this league.
Yeah, for
But
us also Techno was pretty much an auto win because of him winning the off-season tournament. So it was like kind of
yeah,
he was kind of a shoe in. Like, okay, he's really good. He just won the off-season tournament. We and like Luke was like gone, so we were just like, yeah, like
yeah, I
we
definitely think
want to
he's
join.
he's definitely one of the best players in the community. So I feel like it was kind of a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
and I think that if he also like Hiker gets to fit in with the community, I think that would be
Yeah,
really good for the DGBA. I think that also stands on how we have improved the league overall, because I think the league has really been or has taken like a step up the ladder of like improving stuff. I don't remember the right saying and phrase, but like I think that was a really huge step for us,
Yeah,
or that we have taken a good step.
I've counted like 5 people who were like contemplating leaving, but they decided to like stick around anyway. Like it wasn't even like necessarily because of the league and such. It's just because of like like uh like interest in Mons, just like
Mhm.
other commitments, etc. But they still decided to stick around. I think that does say a lot about like the league as like able to like it had like such a good being able to retain so many people. Like Speed Boost and Swarm had a good amount of people that were retained. Poison Boat maybe less so, but that's kind of what we wanted at the same time. And we
Yeah.
also like some people we had to like cut out the league as well. So
Okay. Well, speaking of Poison Point, we have kind of revamped Poison Point in a way. Um, I want to hear Jack's opinions on this because Jack obviously has to commission right now. So he's the owner pretty much, and I think I just want to hear his view on how we or how well we did with Poison Point and how well we did with our views on it and what our views were on it.
For sure. I think Poison Point. I mean, it's maybe a bit too early to call it now.
I mean, obviously, but like what you think right now,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
how
yeah.
it's looking.
Yeah. I think right now it's looking pretty solid. We have a good mix of players, from players that have proven themselves in many different leagues and have experience and are pretty good, along with people that we've promoted from Swarm and other people that are just sticking around that add some life to the community and some good chat presence. And I think these good players and these new coaches we've added can really integrate well to the league. I'm trying to pull up the list of the new coaches here.
I mean, for example, you have Brandon, who LKR Moose, who was a finalist last season, who really is active right now in the chat. He like voice calls pretty often, and that's something that is really appreciated for Poison Point because that does put that life into it in a way. So that's really good for like people who are returning. I'm specifically putting Brandon because Brandon had a really good run. And not to say anything bad about the other people who were returning. Then we had the good promotions that we already addressed. But the really big part for us was obviously who we were gonna put into the league. So what do you think of those?
Cool. Yeah, I think so. We have we have Turk, Tort, Veno, iPro, and Renegade. Is that all new coaches now?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
and
Redifin.
And Redifin as well.
Yeah,
and Redifin, yeah.
I think looking at just from face value right now, I think all of them seem to be great ads. Like I said, it's too early to call, but I think so far, from what we envisioned Poison Point to be at the start of the season, what we wanted to go for, I think we've done a pretty good job with the applicants that we received. During the process, we did feel a bit like limited at times because we did debate putting some old coaches into the league that have been sort of gone for a couple seasons, and we were thinking about having them instead of these new coaches, and we had to make a big decision of whether or not we really want to try and inject this new life into Poison Point and try and get some more celerity to it, or accept these old coaches, which would bring life to the division, but we want it to be something a bit different and trying to integrate new people into the league.
We want a more long term.
Yeah, we were looking for more long term and for coaches that we think could stick around for a long time. And I think some of these coaches really do have the potential to do that if they really enjoy the way that we're running the DGBA and they have good seasons and they want to really try and make it into the Speed Boost division. I just think overall, I think the ads were pretty solid from what I've seen so far, and they haven't failed to impress me, in my opinion.
I mean, in terms of dedication, we can already like see from two of the applicants, they have applied multiple times already to the DGBA, so you can already tell that they are dedicated to getting in, and they have now. So you can already have like a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, I think that's like a big message for like those who like have maybe applied more than once and so haven't gone in. Like there's like you never know. Like over time, like the more you play Draft League, the more you improve as such. and also like maybe the more mature you get, perhaps if that was like the issue that we had with you. So I think like the fact that there were like two people, one person who had who applied 4 seasons in a row, and one person that applied for 3 seasons in a row, and now they're both in the league. I think is like a good message to like never give up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then you have also, for example, Venno. Venno is really, Venno's kind of a shoe-in. Like I already said it for Techno, but Venno is literally a shoe-in for the community. I think Venno really fits in with everyone.
Yeah,
Obviously, he has a lot of people he already knows here, but I think Venno just in general is a person that really fits with the culture that we have already established for the DGB.
completely agree. Yeah,
On top of also being obviously a pretty good player
yeah,
and being pretty established out of himself. And they have for example, Saido and Turk, they're kind of a sort of a package in this. We were looking at them as a, sort of not really a package, but both of them being in the league, like you can already see, like they talk with each other a lot about their teams and stuff. So you can like kind of see how like people are already like integrating with everyone. Like Saido and Turk are talking with each other, Feno and Saido are, me and Saido are, like it kind of it's already working. Like Poison Point is more getting connected and stuff with the community. So I think that's something we really, really have done well with Poison Point with the applicant.
Mm-hmm. I think something else I want to quickly mention as well is that with sort of, if we're going to accept sort of these older coaches instead of these newer coaches, it feels like, and we mentioned before, like we're not really taking any risks for how we want to improve the division. And if we're not taking any risks and we're just doing this sort of general stuff where we know that works sort of at face value doesn't improve anything, then it's not going to sort of meet the criteria we wanted to aim for Poison Point in that season. And so taking the risk to add these new coaches in that maybe we don't know like a ton about, but we know that they're good, but we're not sure how they'll integrate in the community, I think is a big thing that also sort of influenced our decision to add these players in that we think have the opportunity to really integrate themselves into our community as well. So
yeah. Like there's also people like Ethan or Redifin who like had like a really really good application and like had definitely had shown that they were like definitely really competent like in the past when they played, but they hadn't really said anything in the chat beforehand, which is why we initially left them out. But then once there was a drop early on, we decided to maybe give them a chance, and they've started to like really pipe up in terms of like activity and stuff, and I feel like they could definitely be like a really good long term ad if they keep that up.
mm-hmm. For
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. And well, going to Swarm now, I think because I think that we touched upon Poison Point a lot already, and I think that everybody in their own right who got promoted, even JJ who got relegated, and the new applicant. I think everyone is pulling their own weight. Um, I think that it's really great to see how Poison Point is kind of flourishing now. But going to Swarm, and I want to talk with Ches upon this because Ches is obviously the head of Swarm as of right now. What do you think of Swarm as a division? How it's going?
Well, I really like Swarm because you can tell pretty much everyone there is quite invested in the league. They're all pretty active. They're really just a nice group of people, and like some of the people there, I really enjoy them in the chat. Like Lucas, um, he's a player in Swarm. He's been one of the more like wholesome people in the chat, and he's really nice to have around. There's a lot of people like that, so that's kind of why I just enjoy Swarm. People like everyone there is a person, and they're all nice.
We're
Like,
kind of
and
cutting
even
out a
then,
bit.
just really solid. Oh, am I cutting out?
A little
It's
bit.
not like you're
It's
cutting
fine.
out. It's your volume's kind of low. I
Yeah.
think your mic's.
Okay. Yeah, one
That's
moment.
Yeah,
better.
it's good
That's
now.
better.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good. Good.
Okay,
Go
okay,
on.
okay. But yeah, as I was saying, like I like all the people there. Like they're all really nice people. So it makes the division really fun to like moderate and really fun to like work with because and even then it's not like anyone there. Most of them I will say maybe there's a couple that are kind of bad, but most of them are quite solid players. Not trying to like flame, but most of them are pretty good players. No, they're in like the bottom division. That doesn't really mean much. they're still really a lot of them are still really solid. And
Yeah,
those seasons are all competitive.
I,
That's a
I,
pretty
oh, sorry, go on, Jeremy.
that's a pretty big part, yeah, because like when I look at Swarm, I think that even like for example, Rinnegan, I think Rinnegan is a really good player, personally, and he's improving like a lot. But I think last season when he wasn't as improved yet, I think that if he was put into Swarm, I wouldn't because a lot of people think, oh, Swarm, it's the bottom division, it's like there's a lot of fodder. But
Mm.
even if he was put into Swarm like last season, for example, um, he would have really had to like do like his best to get um something like to actually achieve something in Swarm because I think Swarm is actually a really good uh division and just a skill, which is like kind of underrated about Swarm. Like some people really underrate Swarm in terms of the skill in people, and especially with
Oh yeah,
how
for sure.
active everyone is. Because Swarm as a division, it's the third division. With a third division, you usually want a little bit more activity and stuff. But Swarm isn't something to just scoff at, which is I think what I really like about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like everyone in Swarm is like a competent, but like they know like there's definitely like deficiencies about the game, which is why they're in the third division, or maybe they're just like less proven as such. But like I feel like everyone like has like a decent like fundamental understanding of the game.
Hmm.
There's no
Yeah,
one who's like completely lost in terms of like how they play. I also feel like it's kind of like a reason why it's hard for like certain people to make the division as such, because like Swarm is actually like a pretty decent standard in sort of like playing level, which is why when we look at the applicants, we want to make sure that like no one ends up going like 0-10 pretty much. It gets like
Hmm.
completely like whitewashed.
Mhm. And I think even
Yeah.
last season, Swarm was pretty competitive. I think as well, like especially
Yeah,
towards the top. Like there was no like, uh, it wasn't like definitive on who was going to finish first, who's going to win playoffs. Like it's really up in the air. I think all these players really do want to improve and try and get to the top spot, which is really important with the bottom division and wanting to inject new life into communities. Having these players that are dedicated and want to improve,
Yeah, and
show
like
that.
yeah, who have the passion to improve and stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. I really like Swarm. I think Swarm's this season looks amazing. It's a very, very, very powerful division, IMO. There's just, I mean, there was a lot of applicants as well that we saw that, could have fit in here, but I think out of the ones that we accepted, I'm really happy with them so far, personally.
yeah. I think Swarm could have gone in like many different ways. I think like the reason I feel like Swarm's been like very successful is the fact that there's been a lot of like gambles taken on people, and they've kind of paid off. So like in season one, you have people like Dyler and Nick, people like we didn't really know like super well, but they managed to like pop off. And then
Mm-hmm.
like season two, you had Data, Dija, like Oshawott Empire did well, Flygon who replaced, um, yeah, all those people.
Tessie did really well in
Yeah,
the first
Tezzy
season,
did really well in the first. Yeah, that's another good one.
and then
Like,
even in
like we nearly.
because Tessie is like we are like everybody in the council, like everybody says like, oh yeah, Tessie, we think Tessie is a pretty good player, but Tessie didn't even make playoffs with Swarm last season, which kind of shows how good Swarm is. Like Tessie is
Yeah,
a really
like
good player, and
Tezzy
just
nearly didn't make the league. I think they were like a last minute ad. Like I think we pushed we pushed. I won't give the name. We pushed on who's like kind of more like more proven. Like people knew who this other person was, and they were in like some like relatively like decent leagues. But we pushed them out for Tezzy, who like I think only Ratatamen kind of knew, but like they had like really solid app with like a really solid replay, and we felt like they would kind of like be like more dedicated to main the league as such, and I think that's kind of like paid off.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of
well,
philosophy is kind of like when we pick people for Swarm, we definitely want to have like those kinds of people.
how do you think you or how we applied it then to this season? Because we have a lot of we have let me see, 6 new people.
Yep.
How do you think that it worked out now? Because we have Kraft, Dr. Slacking, Mega Oshawa, Patty, Pikachu, Zappy, Zap, and Shanks, who are all pretty active in their own right,
Yeah.
and pretty skilled in their own right. Do you think that that possibility is still there, or do you think there's less of a risk this time?
Um. maybe in terms of, I definitely feel like there are definitely some people who are. Let me go through. I think with Craft first of all, he had like a really good showing in the off-season tour, and he also showed like some decent activity, even though a lot of it's basically sucking up to Jeremy. So I don't know how much you call that good activity as such.
Dude, I think a lot of people really got in because of me because I was just like adding people and just like talk to me.
But no, but on the serious stuff, like Croft, like I was pretty impressed with like how like he had like some like really creative sets, and like the especially cool thing about him was the fact that he's kind of took a break from Draft League, so I feel like with him there's gonna be like some hunger and some like desire to like prove himself.
Especially because
Um,
he's new to like Discord as well, right?
yeah,
Same thing
exactly.
Amino,
Yeah,
like Nick.
I think he was in the MLP and maybe didn't quite go according to plan. But I definitely feel like he can definitely like step up and like have a good showing here, based on what we saw from Vats.
And Ches, what do you think? Because like, Craft obviously is a bit different to some other people here, but what do you think of the rest of the new people?
Well, I'm glad we gave people like Pikachu, Zappy Zap, Shanks, and like Dr. Slacking a chance. Dr. Slacking's a bit different because people knew him a bit better from other leagues and stuff, but Shanks and Pikachu, Zappy Zap are pretty much relatively unknown. The Pikachu, Zappy Zap, I think he's in WPF,
Yeah,
um, but that's about it.
yeah.
But I
I'm really
do.
surprised he hasn't been given the opportunity like a bigger league yet. Like
Yeah.
I think he even got rejected from MLP last season, which I was really surprised about. Which maybe that says more about KHD than anything else. Yeah,
Nah,
I've definitely seen I've seen a lot of matches from him. I've always been like generally impressed most of the time. So I definitely feel like if he's able to be like consistent, which I feel like maybe that's a thing he kind of needs to work on, that he could definitely do really really well. He could
Yeah,
definitely have a good showing in Swarm.
yeah.
Uh, so Doctor Slacking is someone I've known for like I think is it 2 to 3 years now from like another community. He's like I feel like he's one of like the nicest people to talk to. Like he's just so easy to talk to. I just really really like just his personality. I definitely feel like he's a competent player. He's I saw a video from him where he said like I really really want to improve myself, and I feel like that kind of like that like chip on his shoulder um is kind of a good quality to have because this is like a really good opportunity to like show himself to like maybe like a different stage. And I think he's also shown like some good like enthusiasm for the league from the fact that he's like uploaded like his DGBA tournament stuff. Like I've seen him like talk very highly about the league. So I think it's definitely like a good person to give a chance to, especially because he's mainly been playing in like the Wi-Fi community, or like some like a very like certain section of like smaller like showdown communities. So I definitely feel like he could definitely establish himself as like a good ad if he's able to keep up what he's shown so far.
I feel like Patty kind of has the same, not in terms of like how he is as a person and personality, but more
Mm.
so as a player. Because Patty is someone who hasn't really played in any really big leagues yet. Um, and Patty, I've played him before, and I can't say that I think he's bad by any means. I think that he is actually pretty good as a player, and he has a very good understanding of prep. I think that's actually something that I really appreciate about him, and that's why I think he also fits in Swarm because Swarm really can be, or like if you can find consistency in Swarm, I think you will have a good time in Swarm in particular. Like I think if you're just average in Poison Point, for example, you're not gonna have as much fun as if you have an average or if you're average in Swarm, for example, because Swarm is that much of a fun community and helpful community because everybody like is like really helpful. Like for example, Killer is super helpful to everyone. Like Killer wants
Yeah.
to like help everyone. So I think
Um.
that's so if he can find that consistency in and of itself, I think he's already a really good player. So I don't doubt that he could like make like for example top 8 and like playoffs. But
Yeah.
if he can find that consistency, I think the
Paddy's
potential
a
goes
weird
there.
one to me because last season he applied, and I remember I was kind of I wasn't really sure. Like there were definitely some good parts of his like application as replay, but they felt like there were like a lot of like holes to him. But actually looking at his like replays like since then, I definitely feel like he's improved a lot, and that's definitely like something I like admire about him. I also feel like he's like definitely a very nice person. I definitely feel like he could definitely like put into this community, and the fact that he's improved so much in my opinion in like this short time makes you feel like he could like if he's given the opportunity to Swarm, he could definitely like continue to like elevate himself.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then maybe this one's more for Jack because Jack already knows him a bit. Jack, you um are I think friends with Oshawott, Mega Oshawott. What do you think of him in Swarm? Because we already also had him in consideration for Poison Point in the process
Yeah, Ash is an interesting one.
when we were doing application.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because I've known him for quite a while. We haven't talked so much recently, and not until the offseason came about when he wanted to apply, and he sort of, I guess, came out of semi-retirement. I didn't really, because he was in a league I created a long time ago, and he was a pretty decent player in that, and sort of after it kind of fell apart, I don't fully know where he went. But I saw him around a few
I'm
times.
pretty sure I heard from him that he was like really busy with university and stuff like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that is what like kind of cost his semi-retirement because he still really enjoys the game. Like when I talk with him, he like really shows that he like enjoys to play the game and like wants to play the game and gets better.
Yeah, for sure. I think based on the sort of skill level that he's shown, I think there's a good chance that he can perform pretty highly in Swarm. And if he, puts the effort in, and really just has some good performances, he could, easily, well, not easily win Swarm, but I think he can have a good chance at winning Swarm and getting a promotion slot out of Swarm. Um, I don't know. I just think overall he was the player we did consider for Poison Point for sure, as you said. But I think in Swarm he's still Swarm isn't, saying you're in Swarm isn't a bad thing. Like there's some really good players in Swarm, and it's not just an easy free division to get out of. We've had some great players that are in Swarm that not struggle, but it's not easy to get out of for them. And yeah, I think he'll have a good time in Swarm overall. I think he'll have a pretty good season overall, personally.
Yeah, and also just recently come back, so I feel like betting him into Swarm is could that like definitely like help him like long term in terms of like being able to like get that consistent.
Establishing himself somewhere
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because like
because I think he already has his own league, right?
yeah, he has G, I
But
think.
but like it's yeah GE, but I think it's a bit more. I don't know. I think GE is less not known, but like um close to community, like the
Yeah, I
actual
think
community.
didn't the league like die for a while? Like it only pretty much came back because like he came back, I think. I think the league was dead for a
So
bit.
yeah, I think that kind of just gives him a little bit more stability. So I
Yeah,
think that's what you were
right.
trying to say.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
exactly. Like out of all the Swan people, he's like the most well known ads, which is why like maybe some people like a bit like had some question marks. But yeah, I definitely think like if he's able to like put his mind to it, he could definitely have like a really good showing. But like I feel like he does still have to like put the effort in. I'm sure he will put that effort in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then have we already touched upon Shanks? I can't
No,
remember.
we haven't talked about Shanks. No,
Well, let's finish it off with Chess then for Shanks.
Um, well, you see, Shanks was the one of the guys I did a mock with preseason, and he kind of tossed me, so I instantly knew this guy is some kind of god. He must fit in.
or
Nah, I think that's kind of
maybe you just absolutely suck. Did you not consider
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Shanks is an interesting one because he's kind of more in like the German Drawfee community.
Oh
But
yeah, we kind of got him from Data, right? Like Data kind of vouched for him.
well, no, Dave didn't know who he was. I actually asked him about it. He said he'd never heard of him. But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I
but
thought he knew him.
no, he didn't know who he was. But like he's had good showings of that, and from what we could see from his replays, we could definitely tell he had like a good understanding of the game, and he had like some really decent fundamentals. So giving him like a bigger stage, I feel like will continue to aid his development. I definitely feel like he's kind of like he's definitely like the wild card. I think of in terms of the ads.
Yeah.
We kind of like we didn't know what he'd be like in terms of like a chat presence. He seems to be like a really good chat presence from what I've seen so far. Because he was kind of dead before we added him, so we were like, is he just gonna be like is he gonna be like one of those people who just plays their games throughout the season? But it doesn't seem to be that kind of person. So which is very nice. I definitely from what I've seen so far, I'm glad we've given him the chance. I just hope he's like able to like, show himself off.
Yeah. Um, then I think we're already kind of done with the rosters, and I think
Yeah.
overall, I think that we did a really good job with the application process and who we decided to let in and the promotions in general, and the relegation of KHD to Swarm. I think everything kind of just was
Yeah.
handled pretty well.
Like with Swarm, there's definitely a lot of like unknowns in that. Like I seen one person saying like he was like better than like most of the people in Swarm. I was like, I don't know about that, pal. But like just because like people didn't know like a lot of the names, they just sort of like went,
I
oh,
mean,
why am I not in this? But
I mean,
like
even now, like a lot of the people who are just like, for example, Strange, Tezzy, and Ashwa Senpai, they're all from Amino and Craft and Patty now too.
yeah.
So a lot of people just aren't known at all. Like they don't have a name yet. That's something they can all already like establish as well with Swarm.
But like the reason we do that is because we kind of want to we kind of want to be the place where we can give like new people the
Talent.
opportunity to establish themselves,
Yeah.
and then like just create a community out of that. Because if you just create a community out of like established players, like I know like Poison Point's pretty established, but with Swarm, that's kind of like our like breeding ground for like long term kind of players we could put into Poison Point. Maybe in the future they can even go to Speed Boost if they do that well. So that's kind of like our mentality behind it.
Yeah, if we accept a lot of players that sort of already are attached to all these other leagues and sort of have their place there, it doesn't really grow our league to where we want it to be. And so
Mm.
I think it's a good thing that we sort of maybe take the chance on a few people that maybe none of us know, like Shanks. I don't think and none of us knew who Shanks was at all, and it was going to be a risk if we did accept him. And I think so far the risk has paid off, and it's important. It's just overall important to make sure we accept people that
I mean,
aren't attached to anything as of now.
I
yeah.
also want to make it clear that I definitely feel like there were definitely like a good couple people in Swarm who could have definitely made their case and ended up on this list. Like just because you like just haven't made it in doesn't mean you weren't considered at all. I definitely like try to like improve yourself since of like maybe you just aren't like super active in the community, or maybe you just aren't quite there as a player yet. But I feel like with more time, these things can improve. So, anyone watching who didn't make it in, that's kind of like my suggestion, just to like keep grinding,
Yeah,
because
and
like
for anyone also who like wants to run or is running a league or wants to make a league, I think it's also very important to kind of do what we are saying here, where you're, especially if you're doing multiple divisions, like have
yeah,
a division where you can fodder your talent and fodder people who are
right.
going to be
Like
like
there's
the people
definitely
who are
different
going
ways
to
to go.
be
There's definitely different
your
ways to go
community.
about it, and I feel like
Yeah,
there's definitely like it's fine to do like in like a different way, But I'm
obviously,
happy
but yeah,
the way that we do it because I feel like it
yeah.
works nicely.
Well, then I think that would that was enough for the rosters and the changes of it. Um, let's end it off with tier changes. I think that well, let's first start off with season 10 because we did a free draft in season 10,
Yeah.
and for example, we allowed Landers Incarnate, but in this season we decided to ban it because it was a little bit top heavy. Because obviously in a free draft you're gonna have a lot of good mons for everyone, but in a points draft that's gonna be way harder to get and find answers to it. So that's why we banned it. How do you think, or how do you guys think that season 10 helped us with putting tier changes in?
Yeah, first of all, the Lando thing, I think, like, I
Also
definitely
with
understand.
the
Sorry, go on.
like sorry, yeah, I forgot to add because like we went from Gen 7 to Gen 8 and we didn't really do any tiering with the free draft, of course. So how do you think Gen 7 and Gen 8 how we kind of went with that and the DLC and stuff? Not the newest one, but the first one. How do you think
Yeah,
that went?
so because like our tiers from season 9 were like ridiculously out of date because it's not only just a new generation but also like we had to factor in the DLC changes. And that's obviously like we didn't even like consider the fact there'd be like more like tutor moves and stuff like later down the line. So
Yeah.
I think we kind of had to snatch the another tier list. I think that was the Cash Gang tier list, and then we made a whole load of changes to that one. Like I think it ended up. So we basically started off by going in call, and we discussed every single mon. I think up to like 3 or 4 points. I think is where we kind of stopped. And then we were like more selective and with those ones. And then we kind of like had like a sheet where we'd have like all the suggestions, and then we put those to vote. And if there was like a vote which was like really really close to a majority, because the council's an odd number of people, so you're never gonna have like an exact like uh a tie.
You're not gonna have even, yeah, you're not gonna have a tie.
Right. So if something was like 6 to 5 or 5 to 6, then we'd have like a bigger discussion about it and then take that to a vote.
We do that at a
And
later date, yeah.
yeah, and there were definitely a lot of ones which were 6 to 5 or 5 to 6. And then
Yeah.
after that, like maybe there was like stuff like we missed out, so we did another ones. Then we did another round of those, and then did the same thing pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
just to
And
make sure it was like
and
consistent.
and and Jack, you were pretty big in this all because you were very I mean, you're obviously very committed to the league in general, but committed to this portion, I'd say, in terms of how much you showed in the council anyway, because you're mostly like in the admin chat, like helping from the behind the scenes, pretty much. Um, how do you think that process went, and how smoothly we did it and stuff like that? How do you think uh, did everything go right, or do you think
Yeah.
some stuff could have been improved upon?
I think considering how big of a transition this was going to be, I knew like I think considering what it was, I think we did pretty good overall. Like I don't think we could have really done much more given the amount of time that we had. Of course, if we had even more time, maybe we focus even on even more. We have other stuff we have to focus on as well with apps and such, and with how just big and how many tiering changes we wanted to do. Um, I think overall was really good, and I knew that this being the first season of points for Gen 8, there's definitely things we aren't going to get right. That's something you have to accept. You're not going to get everything right first time, and throughout the next couple seasons, we're definitely going to be doing even more changes that we can use um, based off of this season, how Mons perform and how Mons, if we think they're overperformed and should go higher, if they underperform, they should go lower. And having season 10 not be free makes it, or having season 10 be free makes it harder to assess these changes and make changes for season 11 because we can only go off of how they're doing in other leagues really because you can't fully judge Mons based on how they do in a free draft because like you said, some Mons teams are gonna be more stacked in a free draft because you're not restricted to what you can take. You can literally take anything you want that just isn't banned or already taken. And at points you have to be more selective in how you pick things, and some things are just going to be too strong for points just because teams are a bit limited in what they can have to check it at certain times. So I think just considering everything and everything we had to work on, I think we did pretty good. It's something we'll definitely improve on. I think it was organized to the best we could have it. I think we did a pretty good job with how we went about things. I don't think we really would have changed how we went about it. I think, yeah, I think the process overall was pretty good considering how large of a scale it was.
Well, that's a great insight on it and a pretty good opinion about it. I think I share the opinion with that
Mhm.
with you, Jack. And then Ches, I have actually okay. So basically, we had the DLC, like the newest DLC with Urshifu and the new moves. How do you guys think that you know that went? How well it went? Because I think we did that pretty well as well,
Yeah.
like with how little time we had.
Yeah. I feel like it's very hard to get that perfect. There's always like a tendency to like maybe like overvalue something rather than like undervalue it and regret it later. But we didn't want to like overvalue stuff like too much to the point where people want to draft them. Like I think the Urshifu single, I think it's called. Um, I feel like that will end up being like a very solid mon draft. I'm not too sold on the others like Zarude, the Urshifu Rapids, and Gala Slowbro, which I feel like no one's really been that convinced by from the fact that it's gone undrafted in
No.
all three leagues. Which I'm kind of sad to see. I don't know if people just forgot it existed or something, but yeah.
Do you guys think that it was a good thing to do? Because obviously it's a big um selling point for the league as for
Yeah.
applications to like say
Yeah,
we're the first league with like new DLC, but is it because we had to put the season back like a week, but so we only had a week to think of these tiers and change and where to put them and changes with the new moves to some mods. Do you think we handled that correctly, or what do you think, Jack?
Uh, there was a lot of uncertainty with it. This is something we talked about quite extensively between us admins, and that like we don't know how much content's going to be added in this, and we don't all, for a while we didn't know when it was going to be added. I think that was the big thing as well, and that once we knew when it was added, it was sort of just came down to the fact that it's like, okay, well, if we, you know, if we're not able to tier all this stuff, do we want to go through the season essentially playing like a sort of outdated meta and sort of how draft's being played? And to us, that just didn't. I don't think that would have really worked out well. I think it would have maybe confused some players. I think it makes the most sense to play with what's most current. It's also like it is a big selling point and it can spike people's interest into wanting to try all the new stuff and all the new moves um, that was added. And so considering as well that I think we got pretty fortunate with the fact that we have a good council and there wasn't too many things we felt like we needed to change. Obviously, there were a lot of new moves added to Mons, but we didn't feel like it warranted them like moving up like a drastic amount. I think there was only a few mods we felt like maybe should maybe buffed up just a point or two, just with the new moms. And I think a few were like like Real Boom and a couple mods that got Flip Turn, for example, that we felt maybe should be up like buffed up a point or not. So yeah, I think we handled it pretty well in sort of the amount of time that we had overall, and I think what we had, like, essentially with the schedule we had essentially 2 to 3 days to handle all that tiering, and I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that's gonna be pretty much it because we've kind of already gone over everything we have done during the off season and for everything for the DGBA. I'm personally very excited for the season. We have done a very good job for the off season and preparing for the season itself. I think that the only thing we really need to do now is, uh, for example, keep the chat as active as it is now because it is really active and I really enjoy it a lot. Um, and just keep it up pretty much. I think that if we really keep the grind up, we can really make this one of the best seasons I think for the DGBA as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. Which is why I can't wait for everything to fall apart and the league to
No,
collapse
no,
by the
no,
end of the
that will
season.
not
No, no,
occur.
no, no.
Oh, I cannot wait
Hashtag
either.
bold predictions.
Nope.
Nah, I think that'll be it for us today. I think This was a pretty cool thing to do. I was very much an advocate for the podcast itself, um, because I really like the idea of podcasts, especially because I had a conversation with Hiker Turd once, and that would have really been a good one for podcast. But
Yeah, if you guys have like want to leave any of your thoughts, make sure to leave a comment or just say
oh
something
yeah,
in
for
the Discord
sure.
chats.
Yeah,
Like
for
if
sure.
you want like more information of like our opinions, we'd be happy to provide them.
Mhm. And if you're new to the channel or to the league, I'm pretty sure there's a Discord link in the description at all times. And
Yeah,
be sure to like join the server. Like it's a very fun community. You know, you can maybe become part of the community and maybe the league as well.
and if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, hopefully we'll have many more to come. So I'd
Yeah,
recommend
sure.
subscribing
If
to
you
the
if you
DGBA channel.
if you have like any feedback, be sure to leave it down below or in the Discord channel or in DMs. We'll be very much open to it. And if you have any ideas or whatever for next time, then be sure to leave those. I think that'll be it for us. For me, I had fun, and I will see you guys later. I don't know if you guys want to say anything.
Agent Leon was
Subscribe to
robbed.
Parksy.
Subscribe to us.
Yes, thank you for having us, Jeremy. You were a terrible host, and I hate you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you.
Bro, Chesven carried this whole thing. I am.
Yeah.
Nah, okay. Jack, you want to send us off as the
Yeah,
commissioner?
that's it, guys. Thank you, guys. And for everyone watching, I'm really excited for season 11. I think our league overall has just improved drastically. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how the season goes. And that's it from us. Later, guys.